Champion. Micaiah, you can make your way on out. I understand, just letting you know. Be on standby. And this will be for your overall 2014 Beef Breeding Grand Champion. European Continental Grand Champion.
Once again, let's put our hands together for this pair. You know, it's almost a shame that there ain't a bunch out here to compare when you got two as good as these two are. And I would imagine in the shows down here in Florida that this pair of heifers would surface pretty good if I didn't bring them on to take them, whoever happened to have the privilege of sorting. We've talked about both of them, and once again, I won't belabor the point, but really an excellent kind of female, this blonde female. We could go on, and I guarantee even up in Georgia or Texas, Oklahoma, wherever you wanted to go, the Midwest, this heifer would stand there on pretty much wherever you wanted to go. And I'm not just blowing smoke, she's really that good. A lot of good characteristics in that particular female. This young man needs to be extremely proud of that female. And that's not to take away from the smoky quarter heifer. We talked about her in that first division, how powerful and stout she is as far as her thickness and muscularity is concerned. We said maybe we would change her as far as the angles of her skeleton, make her just a little, that would help her be a little more flexible, particularly out of her hip and hind leg. As she makes that stride, if you notice, and I talked about it and mentioned it one time, when cattle are in motion, we want that back foot to cover up that front foot stride. We want them to step right where that front foot left. And the yellow heifer does it so easily because those angles of her skeleton are so good and right. We talked about this one maybe being a little shorter strided, and the reason she's a little shorter strided out of the hip is because she's a little straighter. She doesn't have quite as good flexibility as the heifer, the yellow heifer that we have a second class. So I guess I've already spilled the beans. We don't need to bring anything back. The yellow heifer will be our champion. Smoky heifer will be our
All right, ladies and gentlemen, with Grand Champion 2014 Beef Breeding European Continental, Mason Bishop. Your reserve Grand Champion 2014 Beef Breeding European Continental, Cheyenne Wilkins. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for this pair. All right, we're going to let you all head on back. We'll get pictures at the end. We're going to bring our cow calf pair we have. Ladies and gentlemen, give a round of applause to these exhibitors. These are the 4 top exhibitors in the classes that he decided to bring back. Now, I'm glad I don't have the job to pick the best one out of the 4.
I was wondering where that was.
Let's give these guys a good round of applause and peace. As I mentioned a while ago, out of the classes, we chose who we would want to come back as far as showmanship, and we could have chosen more, but I thought as we went through those classes, these surfaced in my mind of those that maybe did a little better job as far as the showmanship concerned in each and every one of those particular classes. I think there's two of them that are very, very similar in the way that they present themselves and bring presence and bring awareness and those kind of things we talk about in showmanship. Both of them are extremely smooth as far as their stick and the way they use their stick. Both of them are good as far as positions related not only to the heifers, but positions related to me, particularly in those transitions when I go around the front end of them. And I think two of them just kind of surfaces to the top, in my opinion, or in my mind, as being awfully, awfully close. One of them is really at a disadvantage. And I didn't quite understand it when they were talking about it just before we got started. And I'm kind of slow. I brought my wife with me last night, so when I get bogged down, you know, she can help me out or whatever. And what I'm talking about is a young lady with a heifer, the cow with a calf. You know, I know the cow is kind of like most of you women folks when you got them little babies. You ain't gonna let them get too far out of your side, and I understand that. I really do. I'm not very smart. I'm pretty slow, but I understand things like that. So that's what I mean by she's maybe a little more disadvantaged. And the two that I'm talking about is this young lady with the cow and the young man that had the heifer that we were to show the blonde colored heifer down here. And I hope from a comparison standpoint you can see that. I don't want to be too critical of when I bring her. She always fusses at me all the way home that I'm too negative sometimes. And I tell her, I said, well, whether you agree with the opinion or not, each and every experience needs to be a learning experience. And you take those tidbits that this guy says and that tidbits that guy says, and you put those things together and you kind of form those ideas of who was right and some of the things that I might do, particularly showmanship, because I certainly think it's way more opinionated than sort of stop. I think when we go to sort of stop, I think all of us ought to get them about the same. I know we don't, but I think we ought to, because those things that I've talked about and there's more things to talk about don't change. But when you get the folks as young ones and style and the way they present things, it's way more opinionated than they do. This young man does an extremely good job, and this is one of those opinion things. This is one of them jaguars. I like for you to stand more upright. You want to bend over, and some of those guys in the judge showmanship will like that. They're fine. You know, when we do clinics, no matter what species it is, the number one thing I tell kids when we train them, even in big groups, bigger than all you folks put together, is if I'm not in the first class, I want to be sitting right where that old boy right there is sitting. And I want to be watching and even more listening. And if I'm not in that first class, when that first class is over for showmanship, I ought to know exactly what he wants to do. I'll know exactly what he wants to do. And And that's one of those things that you pick up, is he wants you to stand more upright and straight as far as the stance is concerned. This young lady had the hardest one to show. This old heifer was hard. When we showed her in this class a while ago, and she remains harder to show as far as leading, and sometimes that's luck. Sometimes those cattle come in heat or whatever the situation might be, and that's why she wants to be a little draggy today and not want to come on up there late. But the one thing that I would tell you that would change that I think would help you is the halt. That halt is a little bit too long. It's down here on her nose. I think if you got that halt shorter and up here closer on the bridge of her nose, I think that alone would help her lead, because I think with the way you've got that halt, or when you pull on it, it's constricting her as far as her nose and her breathing and stuff, and that might be one of the reasons she's kind of bogging down. And that's just one thing that I would do. These two, and I've already talked a little bit about them, both of them are really good as far as their stature and the way they stand there and the way they keep those cattle as far as the look is concerned. Both of them are good on the move. They hear their stick at the appropriate place at the appropriate height. And both of them as far as transitions are just as smooth as silk. Very, very simple. She's a little more methodical. And what do you mean by that? She does things a little more methodical or in a certain particular order than the young man does. And I guarantee you when they were training, they may have been trained by the same particular person, because they do things so much alike. But she's so methodical and everything is done step by step. I do this, then I do that, then I do this, then I do that. And that's what I mean by methodical. And like I said, the heifer is just a little more fractious because of that old calf back there. I thought long enough. I think today she wins.
The 2014 European Continental Beef Breeding Best Show Woman, not showman, show lady, Alexis Anderson.